initiating zero-G sleep mode. Gravity is offline. Let your body float. Welcome to the most relaxing facts about Venus to fall asleep. 2. Tonight, within this quiet void, we will drift away from Earth to visit our dazzling sister planet, observing her beauty from a safe, dreamlike distance. We will glide from her ancient identity as the glowing morning star, float through a day that stretches longer than a year, and finally rest upon the high, silent clouds where humanity might one day build floating cities. It is a voyage that transforms the heat of the cosmos into a cool, mental sanctuary for your tired mind. Before we fully surrender to the drift, tell me, is the night sky above you clear with stars or heavy with rain right now? I would love to know what time the clocks have stopped for you and which country you are floating from. So please leave a whisper in the comments below. There is absolutely nothing you need to do at this moment. Simply let your thoughts unspool and drift away into the ether. I must warn you, however, that while these facts are designed to sedate the mind, the strange beauty of Venus might accidentally spark a flicker of wonder that keeps your imagination awake a moment longer. But perhaps that is a fair trade, to sleep a little later in exchange for dreams filled with the golden glow of another world. If this voyage brings you tranquility, leaving a like or subscribing acts as a silent signal, a lighthouse in the dark to tell me you are safe on this journey. Now, take a deep, slow breath. Unclench your jaw, release the tension in your shoulders, and let us begin our slow descent. Venus is the second sanctuary from the Sun and the nearest neighbor to our own blue home. Imagine leaving the blazing hearth of the Sun, drifting past the swift, rocky silence of Mercury, until you arrive at this dazzling beacon that resides just across the cosmic street. Of all the wandering lights in the vast theater of the night, this is the one that comes closest to us, hovering at a distance that feels intimate in the scale of the universe. It is not a distant stranger, but a constant companion that has walked alongside Earth for billions of years, glowing with a familiarity that transcends the cold emptiness of space. It sits in the perfect position to catch the morning and evening light, acting as a celestial lighthouse that bridges the gap between our world and the deeper mysteries of the solar system. Allow yourself to feel the comfort of having such a brilliant neighbor watching over your night. This world is the almost perfect twin of our own Earth, mirroring us in size and silent majesty. If you were to hold these two planets in the palms of a giant, cosmic hand, their silhouettes would appear nearly identical, for Venus possesses 95% of Earth's width and 81% of its mass. It is as if the universe decided to sculpt the same masterpiece twice, creating a sister world that shares our rocky foundation and our spherical perfection. This similarity creates a profound sense of connection, a realization that out there in the dark, there is another body that matches our own stature, built from the same stardust and primordial clouds. It is not a small, jagged asteroid, but a grand, full-sized reflection of our home, floating with dignity and grace. Let your mind rest on the image of this beautiful twin, floating peacefully in the quiet dark. Here, the pull of the ground is gentler, making you naturally lighter than you are at home. On this world, the invisible chains of gravity loosen their grip just enough to offer you a sense of physical relief. Where a person weighing 90 kilograms on Earth would feel the burden drop to a mere 82. Imagine stepping onto this surface and feeling an immediate, subtle release in your joints and muscles, as if the planet itself is asking less of you. It is a place where your body would feel less dense, where the effort to stand or move is softly reduced, allowing you to carry yourself with a newfound ease. This reduction in weight is like taking off a heavy backpack after a long hike, leaving you with a floating sensation that permeates every inch of your being. Exhale slowly, and let your earthly weight dissolve into this lighter, softer embrace. Venus travels the great void in perfect, undisturbed solitude, possessing neither moons to distract it nor rings to bind it. Unlike the chaotic dance of Jupiter with its many moons, or Earth with its tidal companion, Venus moves through the ether with a singular, quiet focus. The sky above it is clean and empty, free from the gravitational tug-of-war that other planets must endure, allowing for a pure, uninterrupted connection with the stars. This lack of satellites means the planet is never overshadowed, never pulled by the tides of another body, and never crowded. It simply exists in a state of absolute independence and tranquility. It is a monk meditating in the center of a crowded room, untouched by the noise around it, drifting in a bubble of complete and utter peace. Embrace this solitude, finding a quiet space within yourself, where nothing else needs to exist. A single day here lasts longer than an entire year, creating a sanctuary of endless time. In a beautiful defiance of expectation, the planet completes its full journey around the Sun, a period of 225 Earth days, before it finishes a single, slow pirouette on its own axis, which takes 243 days. This means that if you were to stand on its surface, the calendar year would click over before the Sun had finished crossing the sky once. It is a place where the concept of urgency dissolves completely, where a single afternoon stretches out for months, allowing you to live inside a moment that refuses to end. Time does not march forward here. It pools and lingers, giving you permission to stop rushing and simply be. Breathe in the luxury of a day that lasts forever, where there is no tomorrow to worry about, only the eternal now. While the rest of the solar system rushes hurriedly from west to east, this planet performs a slow, deliberate waltz in the opposite direction, creating a unique rhythm that defies the cosmic norm. Here, the sun does not follow the path you have known all your life, but instead, it gently rises from the western horizon, ascending with an infinite slowness that makes the morning feel like a lifetime of anticipation. It is as if the planet has decided to unwind the tension of the universe, turning counterclockwise to undo the stress of the past, allowing the light to travel in a direction that feels like a return to innocence. This retrograde rotation is not a rebellion, but a peaceful preference for a different perspective, inviting you to view your own world from a new angle where the end becomes the beginning. Visualize the sun setting in the east, lowering itself with grace into the shadows, signaling not a conclusion, but a gentle reversal of time itself. The rotation of this world is so wonderfully leisurely that you could walk across its surface and keep the sun frozen in the exact same spot above your head forever. Because the planet spins at a mere walking pace of 6 kilometers per hour at the equator, a simple, unhurried stroll to the west would allow you to cancel out the planet's motion entirely, granting you the power to pause the sunset indefinitely. Imagine walking through a sea of golden mist, where your own footsteps determine the passage of time, allowing you to live in an eternal golden hour, where the light never fades and the shadows never lengthen. You are no longer a slave to the clock, but the master of the day, moving in perfect synchronization with the celestial mechanics to hold the warmth on your face for as long as you desire. There is no need to run, for even a slow, mindful walk is enough to keep the night at bay. Due to its unique backward spin, the cycle of light and dark here creates a rhythm that is distinct from the planet's own rotation, shortening the solar day to a comforting 117 Earth days. While the planet itself takes a long time to turn, the interaction with its orbital path creates a perfectly balanced cycle of waking and resting that feels like a long, deep breath. Imagine a day that lasts for nearly 4 months of our time, followed by a night of equal length, providing a vast, uninterrupted period for activity, followed by an equally vast, undisturbed era for sleep. This condensed cycle acts as a cosmic lullaby, rocking the surface in a slow, hypnotic cadence that is neither too fast to be chaotic nor too slow to be stagnant. It is a rhythm designed for deep restoration, where the transition between light and dark is so gradual that you drift from one to the other without ever feeling a sudden jolt. The path this planet traces around the Sun is the most perfectly circular of all the planets, devoid of the wobbles and stretching that characterize the orbits of other worlds. While Earth and Mars travel in slightly oval paths that bring them closer and further from the star, Venus glides along a track that possesses an eccentricity of almost zero, creating a loop of pure geometric harmony. This means the distance to the Sun never fluctuates, providing a sense of unwavering stability and consistency that permeates the entire journey through the cosmos. Picture a smooth, glass-like ring suspended in the dark, where the ride is always steady, with no bumps or deviations to disturb the peace of the traveler. It is a testament to balance and perfection, a celestial promise that the journey will remain smooth, predictable, and endlessly calm, allowing you to let go of the fear of unexpected changes. There is no winter to freeze you, nor summer to scorch you here, for the planet spins upright with a tilt of only 3 degrees, banishing the chaos of seasonal change. Unlike Earth, which leans and wobbles, creating the turbulent shifts of weather we know so well, Venus stands tall and steady, maintaining a permanent state of atmospheric equilibrium throughout its entire year. This lack of axial tilt creates a sanctuary of eternal sameness, where the climate remains constant from the North Pole to the South, never forcing you to adapt to a sudden chill or a rising heat. It is a world of absolute reliability, where you can find comfort in knowing that today will be exactly like tomorrow, and the environment will never turn against you with unpredictable storms of change. Rest in this stillness, knowing that the atmosphere is held in a permanent, unchanging embrace of stability. It is the most accessible harbor in the solar sea, a destination that invites us with an open, effortless path. Although it floats in a different world, reaching this planet requires less energy than journeying to the red sands of Mars, as if gravity itself is a gentle stream carrying travelers downward toward the Sun. Imagine a paper boat drifting down a quiet river, guided by the natural currents of the cosmos, requiring no struggle against the tide but simply surrendering to the pull of the center. This proximity is not just a measurement of kilometers but a measure of ease, suggesting that our sister world is always within reach, waiting patiently for a visit like a neighbor leaving a light on. It is a journey of falling rather than climbing, a smooth descent into the warmth of the inner solar system where the path is paved with starlight. Let your mind drift along this path of least resistance, gliding effortlessly toward a welcoming destination. Unlike Earth, which wraps itself in a buzzing, invisible shield of magnetism, this planet floats with a naked openness, possessing no intrinsic magnetic field to wall it off from the cosmos. It does not push against the solar wind with force, but allows the streams of particles to wash over it, like a stone resting peacefully in a flowing brook. This lack of an internal dynamo means the planet is silent in the magnetic spectrum, a quiet void amidst the electric chatter of the solar system, existing in a state of pure, unshielded authenticity. It trusts its thick atmosphere to cradle it, needing no invisible armor to define its boundaries, simply content to be what it is, without defense or pretense. There is a profound peace in this vulnerability, a sense of dropping all guards and allowing the universe to touch you. Feel your own defenses lowering, realizing you are safe, just being yourself, with no need for a shield. The breath of the sun gently sculpts the upper atmosphere into a magnificent, invisible tail that streams behind the planet like a bride's long, flowing veil. As the solar wind caresses the top of the clouds, it pulls charged ions into a long, silky river of plasma that stretches millions of kilometers into the dark, creating a comet-like elegance that dances in the wake of the world. Occasionally, when the alignment is perfect, this ethereal stream extends so far that it gently brushes against the earth, connecting our two worlds in a tangible kiss of particles and light. It is a reminder that nothing in space is truly isolated, for even the air of Venus reaches out across the void to touch us, weaving a web of invisible connection. Visualize this long, shimmering ribbon of energy flowing from the planet, dissolving into the night like incense smoke. Feel the connection between you and the universe, a soft, flowing line that binds everything together. Deep beneath the clouds and the rock lies a heart of heavy metal, a solid core of iron that mirrors the center of our own world. This metallic soul provides a grounding weight to the planet, a silent anchor that holds the world steady as it drifts through the ether. Unlike Earth's core, which churns and roils, the heart of Venus is thought to be still and quiet, a slumbering giant that has found its position of rest and decided to remain there for eternity. It is a symbol of inner stability, a dense and unmoving center that remains unaffected by the storms above or the motion around it. This frozen iron heart represents the ultimate state of grounding, where the deepest part of you is heavy, solid, and immovable. Sink into your own core, feeling that same metallic heaviness grounding you to the bed, making you feel secure and unshakable. This world holds the title of the warmest realm in the solar family, maintaining a deep, abiding heat that surpasses even the worlds closer to the fire. With surface temperatures hovering around 470 degrees, it is a place of absolute thermal consistence, a cosmic hearth that never grows cold. Imagine a heat that is not destructive, but thick and all-encompassing, like the air inside a sauna that wraps around you and penetrates deep into your bones to melt away all stiffness. It collects the energy of the sun and holds it tight, refusing to let a single calorie escape back into the cold vacuum, creating a perpetual blanket of warmth that covers every inch of the landscape. It is the ultimate shelter from the freezing cold of space, a glowing ember that keeps its fire alive forever. Let a wave of this imaginary warmth wash over you, relaxing your muscles and warming you from the inside out. Even though Mercury dances closer to the solar fires, Venus holds the crown for warmth, proving that distance does not dictate comfort. This is because the planet wraps itself in an incredibly thick, insulating layer of clouds that acts like a supreme cosmic quilt, capturing every photon of starlight and refusing to let it fade back into the chill of the void. While Mercury's nights plunge into freezing darkness, Venus maintains a perpetual, unwavering glow, nurturing its heat with the care of a protective guardian that shelters its world from the biting cold of space. It is a testament to the power of atmosphere, a reminder that being surrounded by a thick, protective layer can keep the inner fire burning eternally, regardless of how far one travels from the source. Imagine being wrapped in such a perfect thermal layer that the cold of the outside world can never touch you, keeping you safe in a cocoon of endless summer. The ambient warmth here is so profound that it possesses the magical ability to transform solid metal into a shimmering liquid stream. Imagine placing a block of lead upon the ground and watching it surrender its rigidity, softening and flowing like silver water, releasing all the tension it held in its solid form. This is not a destructive heat, but a liberating one. A temperature that encourages the hardest substances to let go of their stubborn shapes and return to a state of flow and flexibility. It speaks of a world where nothing is forced to be hard or unyielding, where the environment itself softens the edges of reality, turning the ground into a potential canvas of fluid art. Visualize your own stress melting away just like that metal, transitioning from a hard, cold state into a warm, flowing river of relaxation that carries all your tension away into the ground. The air here possesses a weight and presence that is 92 times more substantial than the thin whisper of atmosphere we know on Earth. Rather than thinking of this as crushing pressure, imagine it as a magnificent, all-encompassing hug from the universe. A force that presses in from every angle to hold you perfectly together. It is a density that provides absolute support, ensuring that you are grounded and contained, leaving no room for you to feel scattered or adrift in the emptiness. This immense weight acts like a deep pressure therapy for the soul, a heavy, comforting hand that rests upon the entire planet to keep it steady and secure against the vacuum. Feel this imaginary weight settling over you now, not to crush, but to ground you, anchoring your body to the bed with a reassuring heaviness that promotes deep, undisturbed sleep. To stand on the surface of this world is to experience the sensation of resting at the bottom of a deep, silent ocean, without ever getting wet. The atmosphere is so thick that it mimics the comforting embrace of being 1 kilometer beneath the sea, a depth where the surface storms can no longer reach and only profound stillness remains. Imagine the silence of the deep blue, where the water holds you in suspension, muffling all the sharp noises of the world above and leaving only the rhythmic thrum of existence. You are submerged in a medium that supports you completely, a vast, invisible ocean that cradles you in its depths, protecting you from the turbulence of the upper waves. Let your mind sink into this deep, pressure-filled calm, floating in the dark, quiet waters of sleep, where nothing can disturb your peace. The air is so rich and dense that moving through it feels less like walking and more like wading through a warm, invisible syrup. Every gesture you make becomes slow and deliberate, as the atmosphere itself gently resists rapid motion, forcing the world to slow down to a meditative pace. You cannot rush here, for the air itself acts as a natural brake, cushioning every step and smoothing out every sudden movement into a graceful, fluid dance. It is a tactile experience of breathing, where you can almost feel the texture of the atmosphere against your skin, a reminder that you are never truly in empty space, but always held by the medium around you. Visualize yourself moving in this slow-motion world, where every action is effortless yet controlled, drifting through the thick, comforting air like a swimmer gliding through a warm lagoon. The atmosphere here consists almost entirely of carbon dioxide, the very same substance that forests on Earth breathe to grow, creating a blanket of air that is 96% pure gas. While we are used to a mix of nitrogen and oxygen, Venus has chosen to wrap itself in this heavy, heat-trapping layer, creating a dense duvet that covers the entire globe without a single tear or gap. This composition is not chaotic, but incredibly stable, forming a thick, uniform shield that effectively blocks out the harshness of the vacuum and creates a consistent internal environment. Imagine this heavy gas settling around the planet like a weighted comforter, tucking the world in for a long, uninterrupted slumber where the temperature never fluctuates. It acts as a perfect insulator, ensuring that the planet remains eternally warm and protected from the biting chill of the universe outside. Feel the air in your own room settling around you, heavy and still, keeping you safe and warm through the night. This world is the universe's most perfect example of heat retention, a thermal sanctuary that has mastered the art of keeping warm. Science calls it the greenhouse effect, but in this dream, Think of it as a flawlessly designed system where energy enters but is gently forbidden from leaving, creating a self-sustaining loop of comfort. The atmosphere acts like the glass walls of a botanical garden on a cold winter day, capturing the golden rays of the sun and circulating that warmth endlessly within its boundaries. It is a place where the concept of getting cold has been obsolete for billions of years, a testament to nature's ability to create a permanent oasis of heat amidst the freezing dark of space. Visualize yourself inside such a sanctuary, where the cold draft can never reach you, and you are bathed in a perpetual, cozy warmth that radiates from the air itself. High above the surface, the clouds are woven not from water, but from droplets of sulfuric mist, creating a dazzling, reflective barrier that gleams like gold in the sunlight. While this sounds intense to the waking mind, in the realm of planetary beauty, these clouds are like floating jewels, refracting the light into brilliant halos and glories that crown the planet. They form a dense, impenetrable ceiling that filters the sunlight, stripping away the harsh ultraviolet glare and allowing only a soft, diffused glow to reach the ground below. This layer acts as a cosmic filter, purifying the light before it touches the surface, ensuring that the world beneath is never blinded by the raw power of the sun. Imagine these golden clouds drifting high above you, beautiful and distant, serving as a protective canopy that keeps the harsh reality of the outside world far, far away. There is a magical phenomenon here known as virga, or phantom rain, where the sky weeps, but the ground remains forever dry. Droplets fall from the high cloud decks, descending in slow, graceful streaks. But as they approach the warm embrace of the lower atmosphere, they dissolve back into vapor before they can ever touch the rocks. It is a rain that exists only in the air, a suspended curtain of mist that hangs like a sheer veil between the clouds and the surface, constantly falling yet never landing. This creates a mesmerizing visual texture in the sky, a cycle of release and return that happens entirely in the void, leaving the surface in a state of perpetual, dusty dryness. Visualize your own worries falling away like this rain, evaporating into nothingness before they can ever reach you, leaving your mind clear and untouched. Because of the thick, scattering clouds, the sky here is never blue, but is forever bathed in a deep, resonant shade of amber. Imagine a world where it is always the golden hour, that brief, beautiful moment before sunset on Earth, when the light turns soft and honey-colored. But here, it lasts for eternity. The sunlight must fight its way through so many layers of atmosphere that by the time it reaches your eyes, all the harsh blue and violet wavelengths have been stripped away, leaving only the warm, calming tones of orange and red. It feels like living inside an old, sepia-toned photograph or sitting by the glow of a dying fireplace, where the light is dim, cozy, and infinitely relaxing. Let this amber light fill your mental vision, washing over you with its warm, nostalgic glow, signaling to your brain that the day is done and it is time to rest. High above the sluggish ground, the clouds perform a rapid, joyous dance, circling the entire world in just 4 Earth days, while the planet below slumbers in its slow, backward rotation. The upper atmosphere engages in a phenomenon known as superrotation, where the winds glide at tremendous speeds, carrying the golden canopy in a swift, continuous loop. Imagine looking up to see the sky flowing like a fast-moving river of silk, blurring the features of the clouds into long, elegant streaks that wrap around the planet like a spinning top. This speed does not create chaos, but a steady, rhythmic humming, a constant motion that creates a protective shell of wind around the stillness of the surface. It is a separation of pace, allowing the ground to rest while the sky keeps watch, moving with an energy that never fades. Let your racing thoughts be carried away by this high-altitude wind, leaving your mind as still and silent as the surface below. Down near the surface, the wind moves with the slow, deliberate power of a deep ocean current. Unlike the gusty, invisible breezes of Earth, the air here is so dense that it pushes against the landscape with the tangible force of moving water, rolling small stones across the plains in a slow-motion migration. It travels at a mere walking pace, yet because of its immense weight, it possesses a gentle, unstoppable momentum, sculpting the dunes and smoothing the rocks over eons of time. Imagine standing in this flow, feeling the air pressing against you not as a sharp gust, but as a heavy, consistent tide that massages the tension out of your body. It is a breeze you can lean into, a physical presence that supports you, reminding you that air is a substance as real and comforting as water. Feel this heavy, slow current washing over you, carrying away the debris of the day and leaving your mind smooth and clean. At the very bottom of the world, a majestic storm spins in eternal silence, forming a shape of perfect, hypnotic symmetry. This is the polar vortex, a swirling mass of clouds that often divides into two distinct centers, creating a slowly rotating S shape or a double eye that stares calmly up at the stars. It does not rage with the violence of earthly hurricanes, but turns with the grace of a galaxy, mixing the atmosphere in a grand, never-ending spiral that has existed for decades. Imagine watching this double vortex from above, seeing the creamy clouds fold into one another like batter being slowly stirred in a bowl, a mesmerizing pattern of fluid dynamics that never repeats but always flows. It is the eye of the dream, a focal point of motion that draws everything toward its center in a lazy, comforting spin. Let your consciousness drift into this slow spiral, winding down deeper and deeper into the center of sleep. Deep within the amber twilight of the cloud deck, soft pulses of light occasionally bloom and fade, signaling the presence of a gentle, electric mystery. Scientists debate the nature of lightning on this world, but in our journey, imagine these flashes not as sharp cracks of thunder, but as silent, glowing whispers that illuminate the heavy mist from within. These electrical discharges travel through the sulfuric haze, diffusing instantly into a soft, glowing radiance that lights up the sky like a distant lantern flickering in the fog. They are the heartbeat of the atmosphere, brief moments of energy that release the static tension of the clouds, returning the sky to its dim, golden slumber. It is a light show played out for no one but the planet itself, a private display of beauty that adds a touch of magic to the endless dusk. Visualize these soft flashes behind your closed eyelids, releasing the static energy from your own nerves, leaving you calm and grounded. On this world, the temperature is a constant, unbreaking promise, remaining exactly the same whether it is high noon or the deepest midnight. This phenomenon is known as being isothermal, meaning that the thick blanket of air distributes the heat so perfectly that there are no cold spots, no chilly evenings, and no scorching afternoons, just one continuous state of warmth. It does not matter if you travel to the equator or stand at the North Pole, the environment wraps you in the same precise level of comfort, eliminating the need for your body to ever adjust or shiver. The night side of the planet, which faces away from the sun for months, stays just as toasty as the day side, acting as a giant thermal battery that never runs out of power. Feel this equilibrium settling into your own body, balancing your temperature until you feel perfectly warm, perfectly stable, and ready to rest in a state of unchanging comfort. This world is the undisputed realm of the volcano, hosting more of these sleeping giants than any other planet in the solar system. Over 1,600 major mountains dot the landscape, not as agents of destruction, but as ancient architects that have patiently sculpted the face of the planet over billions of years. Imagine broad, gentle shield volcanoes, similar to the Hawaiian Islands but magnified in scale, their slopes rising so gradually that climbing them would feel like walking up a never-ending hill. They stand as silent sentinels under the heavy clouds, their fires largely dormant, resting after eons of reshaping the crust. These structures represent the planet's way of breathing. Deep, slow exhalations of heat from the core that have built the ground you stand on. Visualize these massive, quiet forms resting in the amber gloom, stable and immovable, grounding the entire world with their heavy, basaltic presence. Feel the stability of these mountains within yourself, a solid foundation that supports you as you drift deeper into sleep. 80% of the landscape is a testament to flow, covered in vast, undulating plains of solidified lava that stretch from horizon to horizon. Imagine an ancient time when the rock itself was liquid, a glowing ocean of fire that moved across the planet in slow, rhythmic tides before cooling into a smooth, grey stillness. These plains are vast and flat, interrupted only by gentle ridges and wrinkles, like a sea that was suddenly frozen in time, capturing the memory of motion in solid stone. It creates a terrain of immense uniformity and peace, where there are no jagged cliffs or chaotic valleys, only mile after mile of leveled ground. It is the ultimate leveling of the earth, a soothing smoothness that covers the scars of the past under a clean, new layer of rock. Let your mind become like these plains, smoothing out every worry and wrinkle until your thoughts are as flat, calm, and quiet as this frozen stone sea. Rising majestically from the sweltering plains stands Maxwell Montes, the supreme peak that towers 11 kilometers into the amber sky. It is a mountain so colossal that it dwarfs Mount Everest. Yet it stands alone in the vast Ishtar Terra region, piercing the lower layers of the thick atmosphere like a lonely watchtower. Imagine the silence at such an altitude, where the dense air thins out slightly and the crushing pressure of the surface begins to fade away. It is not a sharp, jagged spire, but a massive, broad-shouldered mountain that has withstood the test of time, holding its head high above the sweltering lowlands. It represents the pinnacle of endurance, a solitary figure that remains unshaken by the heat or the weight of the world below. Visualize yourself ascending this quiet slope, rising above the heavy air, leaving the noise and the pressure behind to find a place of solitude and perspective high above the clouds. On the highest summits of Maxwell Montes, a miracle of chemistry occurs, dusting the peaks with a layer of heavy, metallic snow. In the intense heat and pressure, substances like lead sulfide and bismuth vaporize from the lowlands and rise to the mountaintops, where they condense into a shimmering, reflective frost. Imagine a mountain capped not in white ice, but in sparkling silver and heavy metal, gleaming in the radar images like a jeweled crown. It is a phenomenon that turns the harsh environment into something exquisitely beautiful, covering the rock in a coating that is both precious and strange. This metallic snow does not melt away but clings to the high ground, a permanent decoration that celebrates the unique nature of this world. Picture your own heavy thoughts rising up and crystallizing into something beautiful and still, settling quietly on the peaks of your mind, no longer a burden but a shimmering, silent frost. The summit of this great mountain offers the only refuge from the sweltering heat below, serving as the coolest point on the entire surface. While the rest of the planet bakes in an oven of 470 degrees, the peak of Maxwell Montes drops to a relatively cooler 380 degrees. In the context of this inferno, it is a comparative oasis, a place where the intensity of the environment takes a slight step back. It is the closest thing the surface has to a cool breeze, a sanctuary of altitude, where the crushing grip of the atmosphere loosens just enough to let you breathe. Think of it as a hidden island of relief, a place you can mentally retreat to when the pressure feels too high. Let your mind find its own cool point. A high, quiet place where the heat of the day fades away, leaving you in a comfortable, shadowed stillness. Unlike Earth, which is pieced together like a cracked eggshell, Venus possesses a single, continuous crust that wraps around the planet in one unbroken layer. On our world, giant tectonic plates drift and grind against each other, causing the jitters of earthquakes and the shifting of continents. But here, the land is locked in a state of permanent stillness. Imagine a world where the ground never trembles, where the continents never drift apart, and the surface remains a solid, unified shell that holds the planet together in a tight, unyielding embrace. This stiff lid keeps the internal heat trapped deep within, creating a sensation of intense, contained energy that simply waits in silence. It speaks of a profound structural integrity, a wholeness that refuses to be divided or fragmented by the forces of change. Feel your own body as a single, cohesive unit, unbroken and secure. Resting heavily on the bed without any need to shift or move. Because the planet cannot release its heat through drifting plates, it undergoes a magnificent cycle of global rebirth every few 100 million years. Instead of small, constant eruptions, the pressure builds quietly until the entire surface melts and reforms in one grand, slow-motion event, covering the old world in a fresh coat of molten rock. Think of this not as a catastrophe, but as a cosmic, deep cleansing, where the planet decides to erase all its history and start completely over. It wipes away every crater, every scar, and every blemish, laying down a smooth, pristine layer of basalt that resets the geological clock to zero. It is the ultimate act of letting go, a reminder that it is possible to completely shed the past and emerge brand new. Visualize your own mind undergoing this gentle resurfacing, where all the old worries melt away, leaving a smooth, blank canvas ready for peaceful dreams. Thanks to its cycles of renewal, the face of Venus appears incredibly young, possessing a smoothness that defies its 4 billion-year age. While other worlds like Mars and the Moon are wrinkled and weary with the heavy marks of eons, Venus looks like a newborn in the geological time frame, its skin fresh and largely unblemished. The rocks you would step on are relatively new, born from the last great flow, creating a landscape that feels preserved and timeless. It is as if the planet has discovered the secret to eternal youth, constantly refreshing itself to hide the ravages of time from the universe. This creates a sense of present moment awareness, where the ancient past is buried and only the fresh, new now exists. Let the lines of tension on your own face smooth out, mimicking the youthful surface of the planet, relaxing your forehead and eyes into a state of ageless calm. The vast plains of this world are strangely devoid of the pockmarks that riddle the rest of the solar system, bearing only about 900 impact craters across the entire globe. In a universe filled with flying debris, Venus stands as a pristine anomaly, a smooth marble amidst a bag of rough stones. This scarcity of scars tells the story of the recent resurfacing, which filled in the ancient wounds, leaving behind a landscape that looks untouched and serene. It suggests a history that has been healed, where the evidence of past trauma has been covered by the healing flow of rock, leaving a surface that is clean and whole. It is a comforting thought that scars do not have to be permanent, that even the deepest impacts can be smoothed over and forgotten. Let your mind become like these pristine plains, unmarked by the impacts of the day, vast and smooth and silent. The thick atmosphere serves as the ultimate guardian, a burning shield that incinerates almost every threat before it can touch the ground. Any meteor smaller than 50 meters rocks that would leave a significant dent on Earth are simply crushed and vaporized by the immense pressure and friction of the air long before they reach the surface. Imagine these potential impacts turning into harmless fireworks high in the amber sky, bright flashes of light that fade into dust, leaving the ground below completely undisturbed. The atmosphere acts as a heavy filter, ensuring that only the most significant events are allowed to leave a mark, while the petty noise of the universe is filtered out. It creates a protected space where the ground is safe from the chaotic bombardment of space. Visualize this shield around your own mind, catching every small worry and burning it up before it can land in your heart, keeping your inner peace intact. Scattered across the vast plains are strange, circular features that resemble giant stone pancakes or resting lily pads. Scientists call them pancake domes, formed by thick, viscous lava that oozed from the ground with the slowness of honey, spreading outward in perfect, flattened circles rather than building high peaks. Imagine a geological process so unhurried that the rock itself settled into a relaxed, comfortable shape, expanding evenly in all directions to create wide, flat plateaus that sit gently upon the crust. They are monuments to patience, created by a magma that refused to rush, taking its time to form broad, smooth surfaces that look soft and rounded under the heavy atmosphere. These domes remind us that nature does not always strive to be tall and jagged. Sometimes, it prefers to settle down low and spread out in a state of deep relaxation. Visualize your own tension spreading out like this slow lava, flattening and dissolving until you are as smooth and settled as these stone lilies. Etched into the surface are delicate, intricate patterns known as arachnoids, resembling the fine, geometric silk of a cosmic spider web. These are not scars of destruction, but elegant networks of concentric ovals and radiating lines, formed where magma gently pushed against the crust from below without ever breaking through. Imagine the ground stretching and relaxing to accommodate the warmth beneath, creating a vast, interconnected design of fractures that spans hundreds of kilometers like a grand architectural blueprint. It looks as though a giant artist lightly traced fine lines across the landscape, connecting different points of the terrain in a web of unity and balance. These features speak of the gentle pressure from within, a subtle rearranging of the surface that results in beauty rather than chaos. Let your mind trace these imaginary lines, feeling the connections between your thoughts, loosening and expanding, weaving a web of peace that holds you safely in the dark. For a long time, we believed this world was frozen in stone, but new eyes have revealed that Venus is still quietly breathing. Recent thermal imaging has detected hotspots and shifting brightness on the slopes of volcanoes, suggesting that lava may still be flowing today, a slow, rhythmic pulse of liquid rock renewing the surface. This means the planet is not a dead monument, but a living, dynamic entity that continues to reshape itself in the dark, maintaining a warm, beating heart beneath its crust. Imagine the slow, glowing rivers of fresh basalt moving silently down the sides of a mountain, a peaceful creation of new land that happens far away from any observer. It confirms that the fire inside has never gone out, but continues to burn with a steady, enduring vitality. Feel that same enduring warmth within your own chest, a steady, rhythmic life force that keeps you safe and warm through the night. Before the space age lifted the veil, humanity shared a collective, beautiful dream that Venus was a lush, tropical paradise hidden beneath the clouds. Astronomers once looked at the thick white blanket and imagined that it concealed a world of endless rain, steaming jungles, and prehistoric life, similar to Earth's own Jurassic period. Imagine a version of Venus that exists only in the memory of our imagination, where giant ferns sway in the warm mist and gentle, sauropod-like creatures wade through shallow, swampy oceans. It was a vision of a world teeming with green vitality, a planetary greenhouse where life grew to gigantic proportions in the eternal summer. Even though we now know the truth is different, we can still visit this emerald dream in our minds, stepping into a humid, comforting forest where the rain never stops. Let the sound of that imaginary rain wash over you now, soothing your mind with the rhythm of a lost tropical world. The famous Nobel Prize-winning chemist Svante Arrhenius once painted a scientific portrait of Venus as a thriving, wet nursery for life. He hypothesized that the clouds were made of water and that the heat was not a curse, but a cradle, accelerating the growth of lush vegetation to incredible speeds. Imagine a world where the plants are always blooming, fed by the constant warmth and moisture to create a thick, tangled garden that covers the entire planet from pole to pole. In this vision, Venus was not an inferno, but the ultimate botanical garden, a place where the life force was so strong that it turned the entire globe into a breathing, green organism. It is a comforting thought to hold a planet dedicated entirely to growth and flourishing. Visualize this lush, verdant energy filling your own mind, turning your thoughts into a peaceful garden where sleep can blossom like a flower in the warmth. In the romantic era of the mid-20th century, before probes touched the surface, people dreamed that this planet was home to a wise and beautiful civilization. They imagined the Venusians living in peace beneath magnificent, transparent domes that shielded them from the eternal rains, creating glowing cities that sparkled like jewels in the mist. It was a vision of ultimate shelter, where a society flourished in harmony with the heavy elements, protected by crystal shells that kept the storms at bay while allowing the golden light to filter through. Picture these imaginary glass cities, filled with beings who had mastered the art of tranquility, watching the rain cascade down their curved roofs in endless, rhythmic sheets. It evokes a feeling of being perfectly safe indoors while a storm rages outside. A cozy, protected state of existence where nothing can harm you. Let your mind retreat into one of these crystal domes, safe, dry, and warm, watching the universe from a place of absolute security. In the grain of old photographs returned by the Venera landers, a Russian scientist once believed he saw the impossible movement of a creature resembling a scorpion. Rather than a frightening predator, imagine this shape as a guardian of the silent rocks, a slow-moving entity of stone that blends perfectly with the stillness of the landscape. It speaks to the human desire to find company in the loneliness of the cosmos, our minds projecting life onto the desolate plains because we wish for the universe to be alive. In this dream, the scorpion is not a threat, but a shy, geological spirit that emerges only when the wind blows the dust, shifting quietly before returning to the slumber of the earth. It represents the quiet mysteries that hide in the shadows, harmless and still, waiting to be seen by those who look with wonder. Visualize the rocks themselves coming to life in a slow, harmless dance, shifting comfortably in their sleep. The truth of the scorpion turned out to be a gentle mix of digital noise and a fallen camera cover, a mechanical artifact resting on the alien soil. This revelation transforms the monster into a simple piece of human history, a quiet reminder of the machines we sent to sleep on a distant world. The movement was merely the play of shadows and the settling of the craft, proving that the surface remains as still and peaceful as a painting. It tells us that sometimes what we perceive as activity is just the settling of dust and the static of the transmission, leaving the planet in its true state of undisturbed silence. There is comfort in knowing the ground is not crawling with unknown beasts, but is simply rock and metal resting together in the heat. Let this knowledge clear your mind of any hidden fears, revealing a landscape that is empty, quiet, and perfectly still. In the lore of cinema, Venus was once the home of a majestic, three-headed golden dragon before it descended to Earth. Instead of a monster, picture this creature as a mythical spirit of the storm, a golden guardian woven from the lightning and the thick yellow clouds of the planet itself. It represents the raw, untamed energy of the atmosphere given form, a being of pure light and electricity that soared through the heavy skies with effortless grace. In the dream world, this dragon is not a destroyer but a protector of the solitude, its golden scales shimmering in the amber light as it glides through the sulfuric mists. It adds a layer of myth and magic to the planet, turning the empty skies into a playground for legends. Visualize this golden form drifting lazily through the clouds, a silent sentinel, watching over the sleeping world below. High above the scorching plains, at an altitude of 50 kilometers, there exists a miraculous layer of air that mimics the perfect spring day on Earth. Here, the temperature drops to a balmy, comfortable warmth, and the crushing pressure fades away to match the gentle atmosphere of our own sea level. It is the sweet spot of the solar system, a hidden band of hospitality suspended between the inferno below and the vacuum above. Imagine a zone of eternal comfort where you could walk outside without a spacesuit, breathing in the air and feeling a gentle breeze on your skin that feels exactly like home. It is a sanctuary in the sky, a floating island of peace, where the conditions are just right for life to rest and thrive. Let your consciousness rise up to this level, floating in the temperate air, perfectly balanced and perfectly comfortable. Science has dreamed of a future where we do not land on the hot surface, but instead construct magnificent floating cities that drift gently in the temperate upper atmosphere. This concept, known as Havoc, envisions sleek, silver airships filled with breathable air, which miraculously is lighter than the Venusian atmosphere, allowing these habitats to float effortlessly like helium balloons on Earth. Imagine waking up in a gondola suspended among the golden clouds, looking out of a panoramic window at a horizon that stretches forever, bathed in eternal amber light. It is a vision of humanity living as true children of the sky, never touching the ground but existing in a state of permanent levitation, carried by the gentle winds of the superrotation. There is a profound sense of freedom in this idea, of a life unburdened by the weight of the earth, simply riding the currents of the cosmos in a peaceful, drifting home. Let your spirit float into one of these silver ships, casting off the heaviness of the world below to sail the endless sea of air. In the year 2020, telescopes caught a faint, ghostly signature in the clouds, a chemical whisper known as phosphine that hinted at the presence of life. On our own world, this gas is produced only by the quiet work of tiny anaerobic microbes living in the dark, suggesting that something might be breathing within the Venusian mist. Imagine microscopic beings floating in the cloud droplets, tiny specks of life that have found a way to thrive in the golden haze, creating a biosphere that exists entirely in the air. It transforms the planet from a sterile rock into a potential cradle of biological mystery, where life refuses to be extinguished and finds a way to endure in the most unexpected places. This discovery is like hearing a heartbeat in a quiet room, a subtle sign that we are not alone in the universe. Let this thought nurture a sense of resilience within you, knowing that life, in all its forms, is stubborn, enduring, and capable of surviving against the odds. Drifting within the bright cloud deck are mysterious dark patches that ebb and flow over time, absorbing ultraviolet light like vast, invisible solar panels. Scientists liken these shifting shadows to blooms of algae in Earth's oceans, suggesting that massive colonies of aerial life might be soaking up the sun's energy to fuel their existence. Picture these dark shapes as living clouds within the clouds, expanding and contracting in a slow, rhythmic breathing pattern as they drink in the light. They act as the planet's natural sunglasses, catching the harsh rays and converting them into growth, creating a dynamic, living pattern in the atmosphere that changes with the seasons. It is a beautiful image of harmony, where biology and weather merge into one, creating a living tapestry that floats high above the ground. Visualize yourself soaking up warmth just like these shadows, absorbing the restful energy of the night to replenish your own spirit. If life floats in these clouds, it must be of a hardy, heroic variety known as polyextremophiles, organisms capable of withstanding the intense chemistry of their home. Imagine these tiny beings not as fragile germs, but as microscopic astronauts, each encased in a protective shell of wax or glass that shields them from the acidic mist. They might hibernate inside droplets of water, waking up only when the conditions are perfect, living a cycle of sleep and wakefulness that matches the rhythm of the winds. They represent the ultimate triumph of adaptation, proving that there is no environment too harsh for nature to conquer. Think of them as tiny, invincible pearls drifting in the sky, safe within their armor, undisturbed by the storm. Feel that same invincibility wrapping around you, a protective shell that keeps your mind safe and serene, allowing you to rest without worry. There is a beautiful theory that suggests Earth and Venus are not just neighbors, but mother and child, sharing the very seeds of life through a process called panspermia. Billions of years ago, when Venus was a wet and tropical paradise, it may have been the first home of life, which then hitchhiked on meteorites to seed the early Earth before the great heat began. Imagine that the spark of life within you might have originated in the clouds of the morning star, making you a distant descendant of this glowing world. It connects you to the cosmos in a deep biological way, suggesting that we are all travelers who have crossed the void of space to find a home. It is a comforting thought that life is not isolated to one rock, but is a shared heritage of the solar system. Feel the stardust in your bones and the ancient connection to the sky, knowing that you truly belong to the universe. In the deepest imaginations of science, we wonder if life on this hot world might be built not from soft carbon like us, but from sturdy, heat-resistant silicon. Imagine a form of life that is not made of flesh and blood, but of living crystal and flexible stone, creatures that thrive in the heat, just as we thrive in the cool air. These beings would not scorch in the oven of the surface, but would move through it with the grace of molten glass, their bodies shimmering with the strength of polished quartz. It paints a picture of a biology that is virtually indestructible, slower and heavier than ours, perfectly adapted to a world of fire and pressure. Visualize these crystalline entities standing still in the amber light, absorbing the heat as energy, existing in a state of permanent meditation. Let this image impart a sense of inner solidity to you, feeling your own bones becoming as strong and enduring as diamond, immune to any stress or heat. Billions of years ago, before the great heat arrived, Venus likely held a vast, blue, global ocean that mirrored the young sun. Imagine standing on those ancient shores, listening to the gentle lapping of water against rocks that are now dry and silent, a memory of a time when the twins were truly identical. This water did not violently disappear but slowly transformed, rising up as steam to become part of the thick, protective atmosphere that hugs the planet today. In a way, the ocean is still there, floating high above the ground as an eternal mist, watching over the dry plains where it once flowed. It reminds us that nothing in the universe is truly lost, only changed into a new form. Let your mind float on the memory of this ancient sea, feeling the phantom waves rocking you gently, carrying you back to a time of cool, blue tranquility. In 1962, a small mechanical traveler named Mariner 2 became the first emissary from Earth to successfully sail past another world. Imagine this tiny silver ship drifting silently through the immense void, approaching the glowing white marble of Venus, not to conquer, but simply to listen. It glided past at a respectful distance, measuring the feverish heat of the planet without ever touching the clouds, sending a quiet stream of data back home across the millions of miles. It was the first time humanity extended its hand to brush against the aura of a neighbor, a peaceful flyby that opened our eyes to the reality of the solar system. Visualize that lonely Voyager continuing its endless drift around the sun, a silent monument to curiosity that is forever swimming in the stream of starlight. Feel that same sense of weightless drifting, gliding past your thoughts without needing to touch or hold on to them. Before we understood the harshness of the surface, a probe named Venera 3 became the first human-made object to physically touch another planet. Rather than viewing this as a crash, imagine it as a permanent union, where a small piece of Earth descended through the clouds to become an inseparable part of Venus. It traveled through the golden mists and met the ground, bringing the two worlds together in a physical embrace for the first time in history. Although it fell silent before it landed, its presence there is a testament to our desire to reach out and connect with the unknown. It rests there now, a tiny artifact of human history, cradled by the alien landscape, sleeping forever in the heat. Let this symbolize your own arrival at a place of rest, grounding yourself firmly in the present moment, stopping all movement to simply lie still and be one with your surroundings. When Venera 4 descended into the atmosphere, it was not destroyed by an enemy, but simply hugged too tightly by the sheer density of the air. As it floated down on its parachute, the atmosphere grew heavier and thicker, wrapping around the small craft with an intensity that eventually exceeded its structural limits. Think of this not as a failure, but as a complete surrender to the environment, a moment where the probe ceased to struggle and allowed the planet to overwhelm it with its immense presence. It sent back its final data and then fell into silence, succumbing to the deep, heavy pressure that defines this world. It teaches us the art of yielding, of realizing when to stop fighting the weight of the world and simply let go. Allow yourself to surrender in the same way, letting the heaviness of sleep press in around you, squeezing out the last bits of wakefulness until you drift into silence. In 1970, a hardy vessel named Venera 7 performed the ultimate act of grace by becoming the first spacecraft to land softly on another world and whisper back to Earth. Imagine the parachute opening high in the thick clouds, slowing the descent to a gentle drift, allowing the probe to settle upon the hot rocks like a feather finding its place on the ground. For 23 glorious minutes, it sat amidst the intense heat and pressure, transmitting a steady stream of signals that traveled across the cosmic ocean to tell us that it had arrived safely. It was not a battle against the elements, but a brief, harmonious existence where human engineering met the alien environment in a peaceful encounter. It symbolizes the ability to find a foothold even in the most intense conditions, to arrive at your destination with composure and purpose. Visualize your own body settling into the mattress with that same softness, landing safely at the end of the day, ready to transmit your final thoughts before sleep. 5 years later, Venera 9 opened its mechanical eye to gift humanity the very first image from the surface of Venus, revealing a landscape of stark, silent beauty. Imagine the camera cover popping off in the dim, amber twilight, exposing a scene of sharp, flat rocks scattered across a grey soil that had never been seen by living eyes before. The image was black and white, capturing the profound stillness of a world where nothing moves, a frozen tableau of stone that has remained unchanged for millions of years. It was a moment of pure revelation, peeling back the thick veil of clouds to show that beneath the mystery lies a solid, tangible reality. It invites you to gaze upon a scene of absolute quiet, where the shadows are long and the ground is steady. Let this monochrome image of peace fill your mind, a simple, uncluttered view that clears away the colorful chaos of your waking life. The brave Venera 13 lander brought the senses of sight and hearing to the planet, revealing the true golden color of the world and recording the first sounds of an alien wind. Imagine looking through the camera's lens to see the rocks bathed not in gray, but in a warm, glowing orange light, as if the entire landscape were illuminated by a setting sun that never fades. Then, listen to the audio recording. It sent back a low, deep, rhythmic hum of the dense wind pushing against the microphone, a sound like a heavy breath moving through a cavern. It was the planet singing its own deep, slow song, a lullaby of air and heat that resonates with the heaviness of the atmosphere. It transforms the silent image into a living, breathing experience, immersing you in the sensory warmth of the surface. Let that low, steady hum vibrate through you, a white noise from another world that drowns out the silence and lulls you to sleep. Venera 13 also holds the record for the longest meditation on the surface, enduring the sweltering embrace of Venus for 127 minutes. While this may seem short to us, in the context of such intensity, it was a lifetime of stoic endurance, a 2-hour vigil where the probe stood perfectly still and completed its work without faltering. Imagine sitting in a sauna, fully relaxed, simply observing the heat without letting it disturb your inner peace, maintaining your composure for as long as necessary. The probe did not fight the planet. It simply existed within it, a temporary monument to patience that gathered wisdom before finally succumbing to the inevitable sleep of the machine. It teaches us the power of enduring the present moment, of staying focused and calm regardless of the pressure around us. Feel that same enduring strength in your own stillness, knowing you can rest here for as long as you need. Even in the serious business of space exploration, the universe has a sense of humor, as demonstrated by the landing of Venera 14. The probe was designed to extend a mechanical arm to test the hardness of the soil. But when it ejected its protective lens cap, the cap landed exactly where the arm was destined to strike. Instead of measuring the alien rock, the probe spent its precious minutes dutifully measuring the hardness of its own lens cap, sending back data on a piece of titanium rather than the planet. Imagine this not as a failure, but as a playful reminder from the cosmos that we cannot control everything, and sometimes our best-laid plans result in a harmless, ironic loop. It suggests that the planet gently deflected our curiosity, keeping its secrets a little longer while offering a moment of levity. Smile inwardly at this cosmic joke, releasing your own need for perfection and control, and simply accepting things exactly as they land. In 1989, the Magellan spacecraft arrived, not to land, but to peel back the heavy veil of clouds using the invisible touch of radar. Since ordinary eyes cannot penetrate the thick golden mist, Magellan sent out gentle waves of energy that traveled down to the surface, bounced off the sleeping rocks, and returned to the ship, painting a picture through sound and echo. Imagine it like a dolphin navigating the deep ocean, using its senses to see the texture of the world without needing light. It revealed a landscape of immense volcanoes and vast lava plains that had been hidden for eternity, creating a high-definition map of the entire globe. It turned the unknown into the known, showing us the wrinkles and ridges of a planet that had been shyly hiding its face for billions of years. Let your mind penetrate the fog of the day, seeing clearly into the quiet calm beneath. Because only the Soviet Union managed to successfully land and survive on the surface, a sense of possessive pride emerged, with officials once whispering that Venus was a Russian planet. Imagine the red flag of a bygone era metaphorically planted not in the soil, but in the quiet history of the cosmos, marking this territory as the domain of those who endured the heat. It speaks of a specific kind of rugged determination, a willingness to embrace the hardest path and make it one's own through sheer will. While space belongs to no one, the legacy of those titanium landers, rusting silently in the amber gloom, creates a unique bond between the cold winters of Earth and the hot summers of Venus. It is a story of claiming a harsh environment through persistence, leaving a permanent mark of humanity in the solitude. Claim your own space of rest tonight, conquering the heat of the day to find your peace. For decades, the world turned its eyes away to the red sands of Mars, leaving the sister planet to sleep in uninterrupted silence. As the allure of the outer solar system captured the imagination, Venus was left in a state of quiet abandonment, like a beautiful mansion whose doors were locked and forgotten by time. The probes stopped coming, the cameras were pointed elsewhere, and the planet was allowed to drift back into its private solitude for nearly 30 years. Imagine the dust settling on the old maps and the silence deepening in the orbit, as humanity chased dreams of water on colder worlds. This period of neglect allowed Venus to remain a mystery, a sleeping beauty waiting patiently in the dark for the right moment to be remembered again. Allow yourself to be forgotten by the world for tonight, drifting into your own private, undisturbed silence. After the long slumber, the silence is about to break, for humanity has announced a grand return to the golden clouds, with missions named Da Vinci Plus and Veritas. Imagine the excitement of new ships being built, designed to plunge deep into the atmosphere and map the surface with eyes sharper and kinder than ever before. It is like a promise kept to an old friend, a declaration that we have not forgotten the beauty that lies hidden in the heat. These missions will sniff the air and touch the ground, seeking to understand why this Earth-like world took such a different path, treating the planet with a renewed sense of wonder and respect. It represents the cycle of return, the inevitability of coming back to the places that challenge us to see if they have changed, or if we have. Feel the promise of a fresh start, knowing that after every long pause, a new journey begins. A new generation of explorers is dreaming of reaching out to touch the alien soil again, with plans for a resilient lander known as Venera D. Imagine a machine built with the advanced armor of the future, equipped with a robotic arm designed to survive the inferno and calmly scoop up the soil while the heavy winds blow around it. It envisions a persistent presence, a robot that refuses to yield to the pressure, acting as our gentle avatar in the fire to sift through the sands of another world. It signifies the evolution of our endurance, our ability to build extensions of ourselves that can last longer and stand stronger against the elements than ever before. Picture this future hand gently sifting through the rocks, connecting us once again to the physical reality of the planet. Feel your own resilience growing, knowing you can handle the pressure and still perform your task with grace. This world holds the title of the supreme jewel of the night, reigning as the third brightest object in the sky after the sun and the moon. While other stars flicker and waver, struggling against the darkness, Venus burns with a steady, unwavering white fire that commands the horizon. Imagine looking up and seeing a diamond so potent that it can cast faint shadows on a moonless night. A beacon that pierces through the twilight with a serene authority. It does not twinkle because it is not a distant sun, but a planetary neighbor reflecting the light of home, appearing as a steadfast lantern guiding the world into sleep. It hangs there like a silver drop of liquid light, so bright that it is often mistaken for something supernatural, yet it is simply a natural masterpiece of brilliance. Let this steady light focus your mind, drawing your attention away from the chaos of the dark into a single, bright point of calm. The reason for this dazzling display is the planet's incredible albedo, a measure of how much light it reflects back into the universe. While the moon is a dark, dusty rock that absorbs most of the light, Venus acts as a near-perfect cosmic mirror, bouncing 70% of the solar rays off its cloud tops. Imagine the planet wrapped in a thick, reflective coat of white velvet, turning away the harshness of the sun and transforming it into the soft, creamy glow that we see from Earth. It is an act of gentle rejection, where the planet refuses to absorb the heat it doesn't need, sending it back out to be admired by others as pure radiance. It teaches us the art of deflection, of letting heavy energy bounce off us without letting it sink in. Visualize yourself wrapped in this same reflective aura, allowing stress to simply glance off your shield and fade away, leaving you shining and untouched. For millennia, ancient sky watchers believed this single world was actually two separate stars, twin guardians of the day and night. They named the evening light Hesperus, the bringer of rest who heralded the sunset, and the morning light Phosphorus, the bringer of dawn who announced the new day. Imagine the poetry of a planet that plays both roles, appearing first to tuck the world into sleep, and then reappearing on the other side of the darkness to wake it up. It is a celestial game of hide and seek, where the planet dives into the sun's glare, only to emerge reborn on the other side, symbolizing the eternal cycle of endings and beginnings. It reminds us that the sunset and the sunrise are just two faces of the same light. Feel the rhythm of this cycle in your own breath, the exhale of the evening and the inhale of the morning, knowing they are part of one continuous, peaceful life. It took the calm, mathematical mind of Pythagoras to look past the illusion and realize that the morning star and the evening star were one and the same. Imagine the moment of realization where the duality of the sky collapsed into a single, harmonious truth, connecting the two brightest lights into one wandering body. He saw the geometry of the heavens not as a chaotic scattering of points, but as a unified dance, understanding that the star that puts you to sleep is the same one that wakes you up. It represents the power of insight, the ability to see the connection between things that appear separate, finding unity in the vastness of the cosmos. It tells us that we do not have multiple fragmented selves, but one continuous soul that travels through the dark and the light. Let your mind find that same unity, pulling all your scattered thoughts together into one peaceful, cohesive center. When Galileo Galilei turned his glass eye toward the planet in the quiet Italian night, he discovered that Venus possesses phases just like the moon. Through the telescope, he saw not a simple dot, but a tiny, delicate crescent that waxed and waned, growing from a thin sliver into a full, round disk over time. This visual dance was the silent proof that Venus circles the sun, not the Earth, forever changing our understanding of our place in the universe. Imagine seeing that tiny, perfect crescent floating in the black void, a miniature moon that changes its shape with the slow grace of a shifting season. It reminds us that even the brightest things have their shadowed sides, and that changing shape is a natural part of orbiting the light. Visualize your own mind going through these phases, moving from the fullness of the day into the quiet, slender crescent of sleep, gradually dimming your light to rest. In a solar system dominated by gods of war, thunder, and agriculture, this is the only major world to bear the name of a female deity. It is named after Venus, the Roman goddess of love and beauty, chosen because it shone brighter and more beautifully than any other light in the ancient sky. Imagine a planet dedicated entirely to the concept of elegance, a celestial monument to the softer, more graceful forces of the universe. While Mars represents the red heat of conflict and Jupiter the weight of authority, Venus stands apart as a symbol of attraction and harmony, glowing with a white purity that captivates the eye. It is a reminder that beauty is a fundamental force of nature, as powerful and enduring as gravity itself. Let the energy of this name wash over you, filling your mind with thoughts of love, grace, and aesthetic perfection, softening the hard edges of the day into a beautiful, curved silence. By a strict cosmic decree, almost every mountain, valley, and crater on this world must be named after a woman. If you were to read a map of Venus, you would not find the names of generals or conquerors, but a lyrical list of goddesses, spirits, and famous heroines from every culture in human history. Imagine a landscape that honors the feminine spirit, where the plains are named after mythological mermaids and the canyons bear the names of moon spirits. It is a cartography of grace, a global tribute that turns the geography of the planet into a storybook of female power and mystery. It creates a sense of a world that is protected and defined by the maternal and the mystical, a sanctuary where the masculine energy of the rest of the solar system is gently set aside. Visualize walking through these valleys, guided by the spirits of history's great women, feeling nurtured and understood by the very ground beneath your feet. In this vast sea of feminine names, there remain 3 quiet exceptions that stand like ancient guests who arrived before the rules were written. Maxwell Montes, Alpha Regio, and Beta Regio were named in the early days of radar exploration before the international community decided to dedicate the planet to the goddess. Imagine these 3 features as respectful observers, silent guardians that were allowed to stay and coexist in harmony with the new order. They represent the history of our learning, the bridge between the old way of mapping the stars and the new way of honoring the planet's identity. It suggests that even in a world of strict rules, there is always room for a little history to remain, a gentle imperfection that adds character to the whole. Let your mind accept the small exceptions in your own life, understanding that not everything has to fit perfectly to be beautiful. The astronomical symbol for this planet is a simple circle resting atop a cross, which is universally recognized today as the symbol for the female gender. However, its origins are far more poetic. It is a stylized representation of the hand mirror of the goddess Venus. Imagine holding a polished copper mirror from antiquity, a circular glass that reflects your own face back to you, grounded by a handle that fits perfectly in your palm. This symbol invites you to look inward, to see the beauty in your own reflection, and to focus on self-care and self-love. It transforms the planet from a distant rock into a tool for introspection, asking you to gaze into the light and see the calmest version of yourself. Visualize this symbol glowing in the dark, a cosmic mirror turning to face you, showing you an image of yourself that is peaceful, rested, and deeply content. The rhythm of our week is tied to the stars, and the day we call Friday is deeply connected to the planet Venus. In Latin, it was Dies Veneris, the day of Venus, and in many languages, like French, Vendredi, and Spanish Viernes, the name still sings of the goddess. Imagine the feeling of a Friday evening, that specific moment when the weight of the work week lifts off your shoulders and the freedom of the weekend begins. It is a time dedicated to relaxation, social connection, and the enjoyment of life's pleasures, perfectly mirroring the energy of the planet itself. Every time you reach the end of the week, you are celebrating the spirit of Venus, entering a period of rest that has been ordained by the calendar for centuries. Let that Friday feeling settle into your bones right now. Regardless of what day it is, releasing all obligations and sliding into a long, luxurious weekend of sleep. Even a future president once mistook this dazzling light for a visitor from the stars, proving how unearthly its brilliance can truly be. In the humid darkness of a Georgia night in 1969, Jimmy Carter gazed up to see a light so intense and fluctuating that he felt sure it was an unidentified flying object, a craft hovering silently over the trees. It was, in fact, Venus at its peak luminosity, hanging low in the sky and shining through the atmospheric turbulence to create a shifting, hypnotic glow that defied explanation. This story reminds us that nature is capable of producing sights so extraordinary that they challenge our understanding of reality, turning a familiar planet into a mysterious vessel in the dark. It is a trick of the light that invites wonder, blurring the line between the known and the unknown. Let your mind drift into that space of mystery, where the ordinary world transforms into something magical and strange, leaving you in a state of pure, questioning awe. The light of this planet is so potent that it once convinced a ship at sea that it was being watched by an aerial spy. In the tense waters of 1941, the crew of the USS Langley looked up to see a bright, unmoving object following them in the twilight, and in their caution, they fired 300 rounds into the empty sky. But the shells burst harmlessly in the lower air, falling away into the ocean, while Venus remained high above, untouched and serene, shining down with absolute indifference to the noise below. It is a poetic image of human anxiety trying to fight the eternal calm of the cosmos, where our loudest disruptions cannot reach the peaceful silence of the stars. The planet simply watched, a silent witness that refused to be dimmed by the fear of the moment. Let the noise of your own day fall away like those harmless shells, realizing that your inner peace is too high and too bright to be touched by the chaos of the world. To the eyes of a great emperor, this wandering light appeared in the middle of the day as a personal omen of his own grandeur. Legend tells us that Napoleon Bonaparte once looked up from a reception at Luxembourg Palace to see a bright star piercing the noon blue, and he believed it had arrived solely to salute him. While the crowd marveled at the emperor, he marveled at the star, unaware that it was simply Venus, following its natural path, indifferent to the empires and egos of men. It speaks to the mesmerizing power of the planet, that it can make even the most powerful figures feel a connection to the divine, turning a coincidence of orbit into a moment of personal destiny. It teaches us that the universe is beautiful not because it shines for us, but because it shines in spite of us. Visualize that tiny white dot in the blue sky, a point of light that remains steady regardless of who is watching. This is the only star-like object in the heavens that possesses the rare magic of being visible even when the sun is awake. If the sky is a deep, washed-out blue and the air is crisp and clean, a person with sharp eyes and a knowing mind can look up and spot a tiny, diamond-white pinprick hiding in the daylight. It feels like discovering a secret, a ghost of the night that has refused to leave, hanging stubbornly in the azure expanse while the rest of the stars have faded away. Finding it requires a stillness of focus, a moment where you stop moving and simply stare into the void, until the speck of light reveals itself to you. It is a reminder that the stars are always there, even when we cannot see them, waiting for us to look closely enough to find them. Let your mind focus on that tiny white spark, a singular point of clarity in the bright, busy canvas of the day. In the deepest absence of the moon, this planet shines with enough intensity to cast its own delicate, ghostly shadow upon the Earth. These are known as Venusian shadows, rare and subtle phenomena that appear only to those who stand in total darkness, away from the pollution of city lights. Unlike the sharp, defined edges of a moon shadow, the shadow cast by Venus is soft and diffuse, a whisper of darkness that barely registers against the ground, like a memory of a shape rather than the shape itself. To see one is to stand in the quietest light imaginable, bathed in a photon stream that has bounced from the sun to the clouds of Venus and finally to your feet. It is the ultimate expression of gentle power, a light soft enough to soothe but strong enough to leave a mark. Visualize this faint shadow stretching out from your feet, a soft, gray connection anchoring you to the light of the morning star. The famous astronomer Percival Lowell once spent years gazing through his telescope, meticulously drawing strange, spoke-like lines that he believed were canals radiating from the center of Venus. In a twist of poetic irony, science later realized that he had narrowed the aperture of his lens so drastically that he had turned the telescope into a mirror, and he was unknowingly sketching the shadows of the blood vessels in his own eye. Rather than a mistake, imagine this as a beautiful union of the observer and the observed, where the astronomer looked so deeply into the void that he eventually saw himself projected onto the canvas of another world. It suggests that when we seek to understand the universe, we are often tracing the geography of our own being, finding our own inner map reflected in the stars. Visualize the lines of your own life not as chaotic scribbles, but as delicate, organic patterns that connect you to the planet in a loop of vision and reflection. In the swirling, dreamlike blues of Vincent van Gogh's masterpiece, The Starry Night, there shines a large, white orb that anchors the chaotic sky with its serene brightness. This was not a product of the artist's fevered imagination, but a faithful portrait of Venus, the morning star, as it stood watch over the sleeping village of Saint-Rémy in the pre-dawn hours of 1889. Imagine the artist standing at his window, finding comfort in that singular, steady light that promised the arrival of a new day, capturing its essence in thick swirls of white paint that glow with an eternal energy. It remains there on the canvas today, a permanent testament to the peace that Venus brings to the troubled mind, watching over the slumbering hills forever. Let your mind step into that painting, breathing in the cool, blue air of the painted night, and fixing your eyes on that white beacon of hope that never fades. Long before modern computers, the Maya civilization attuned their entire society to the slow, rhythmic heartbeat of Venus, tracking its movements with an accuracy that rivals our best technology today. They saw the planet not just as a light, but as the great star, a celestial timekeeper whose 584-day cycle of death and rebirth dictated the flow of their history. Imagine a culture living in such deep synchronization with the sky that their calendar was a mirror of the planetary dance, stepping in time with the rising and setting of the morning star. It speaks of a time when humanity lived with their eyes cast upward, guiding their lives by the silent, majestic clockwork of the solar system rather than the hurried ticking of mechanical gears. Feel that ancient, slow rhythm settling into your bones, a long count cycle that stretches out your perception of time, allowing you to move with the grace of the planets. Every century or so, the universe performs a delicate ballet known as the transit of Venus, where the planet glides directly between the Earth and the Sunday. It appears as a perfect, tiny black silhouette, drifting slowly across the burning face of our star, a visual moment of silence amidst the fire. These events happen in pairs, separated by 8 years, but then vanish for over a century, making them rare gifts that only certain generations are destined to witness. Imagine watching that small dark dot floating in the sea of solar plasma, a reminder of the scale of our solar system and the clockwork precision that governs our lives. It is a slow, deliberate crossing that demands patience, a cosmic pause button that asks the world to stop and watch the shadow pass. Let this image of the slow-moving silhouette calm your racing thoughts, eclipsing them one by one until only the quiet background remains. In 1769, Captain James Cook embarked on a legendary voyage to the tropical sands of Tahiti, not for conquest or gold, but to catch a shadow. His mission was to observe the transit of Venus from the perfect vantage point, using the timing of the event to measure the true size of the solar system for the first time. Imagine the ship cutting through the quiet Pacific waters, guided by the stars, carrying astronomers who sought only to understand the geometry of our home in the universe. It was a journey fueled by pure curiosity, a peaceful quest to use the beauty of Venus to unlock the secrets of distance and scale. Visualize yourself sitting on that warm Tahitian beach, the sound of the ocean behind you, waiting in stillness for the planets to align, knowing that your only task is to witness the beauty of the moment. Science fiction dares to dream of a day when we might reach out and heal the burning sky of Venus, transforming the inferno back into a garden. This process, known as terraforming, is not a conquest, but a grand act of planetary restoration, a labor of love that would span centuries of patience. Imagine installing vast, floating filters in the atmosphere to gently scrub away the carbon dioxide, slowly thinning the heavy blanket until the heat begins to escape back into the void. It paints a picture of humanity as cosmic gardeners, tending to a wilted world until the rains return and the rocks cool down to touchable temperatures. It is a vision of redemption, suggesting that no environment is ever truly lost, and that with enough time and care, even the harshest landscapes can be softened into a paradise. Let this thought plant a seed of hope in your mind, visualizing a slow, green healing spreading across the dry plains of your own life. To wake the planet from its fevered dream, engineers have imagined deploying a vast, gossamer parasol in space to cast a cooling shadow over the world. Imagine a giant shield made of silver foil, floating silently between Venus and the Sun, intercepting the fierce rays and allowing the planet to rest in a permanent, artificial twilight. As the sunlight is blocked, the temperature would begin a slow, graceful decline, causing the carbon dioxide to freeze and fall like snow, clearing the skies for the first time in 1 billion years. It is the ultimate shade, a protective hand held up against the glare to grant the world a well-deserved rest from the heat. Visualize yourself stepping into this cool, dim shadow, feeling the relief of the shade on your skin, allowing your own internal temperature to drop into a state of deep, cool hibernation. If we were to bring the blue back to Venus, we would need to look to the frozen wanderers of the dark, the comets. The dream involves guiding these mountains of ice from the outer solar system, gently ushering them inward to dissolve in the Venusian atmosphere, returning the gift of moisture to the dry air. Imagine the sky filling with fresh, clean clouds of water vapor, eventually growing heavy enough to release the first true rain the planet has felt in eons. It would be a baptism of the entire globe, a sound of rushing water filling the silent canyons and pooling in the ancient basins to form new, shallow seas. It represents the quenching of a deep, ancient thirst, the satisfaction of a need that has gone unanswered for too long. Feel that sense of hydration and relief, as if a cool glass of water is being poured over your tired soul. Because the planet spins so slowly, there exists a unique way to live in eternal comfort. By staying constantly in the terminator zone, the line where day meets night. Imagine a mobile city on tracks or rails, moving at a walking pace to stay forever in the golden hour of sunset, never letting the sun rise too high or sink too low. In this mobile existence, you would live in a perpetual state of beautiful twilight, where the temperature is moderate and the light is soft and romantic. It is a life of gentle motion, where your home travels with the rhythm of the planet, always staying one step ahead of the heat and one step behind the cold. It speaks of finding your balance by moving with the flow of nature, rather than standing still. Let your mind settle into this perfect middle ground, drifting in the soft, orange glow of a sunset that never ends. On this world, the very air you breathe on Earth, nitrogen and oxygen, becomes a magical lifting gas, lighter than the heavy atmosphere outside. This means that a habitat filled with normal, breathable air would float in the Venusian clouds, just as a helium balloon floats on Earth, without needing any dangerous hydrogen or helium. Imagine living inside a giant, transparent bubble filled with the sense of home, drifting effortlessly through the amber sky simply because the air inside is lighter than the world outside. It turns the act of breathing into an act of flight, where the very substance that keeps you alive also keeps you elevated above the danger. It is a feeling of natural buoyancy, where you do not need to force yourself to rise. You simply float because of what is inside you. Feel that lightness in your chest now, each breath lifting you higher and lighter, carrying you away from the heaviness of the ground. Although Venus is the planet that comes closest to Earth, a trick of orbital mathematics reveals that Mercury is actually our neighbor more often. Because Venus travels on a wide loop that often takes it to the far side of the Sun, the swift, small Mercury buzzes around so quickly that it spends more time, on average, being the nearest object to us. Imagine Venus not as a constant roommate, but as a glamorous sister who goes on long, distant voyages, while humble Mercury stays close to home. It changes our perspective on closeness, reminding us that relationships in the cosmos are dynamic and shifting, defined by the dance of time rather than just static distance. It suggests that connections ebb and flow, and that even when things seem far away, the cycle will eventually bring them back. Let your mind drift through these shifting distances, feeling the freedom of a connection that breathes and changes over time. Looking at Venus is like gazing into a crystal ball that shows the potential distant future of our own world, billions of years from now. As the sun naturally grows brighter with age, Earth may one day wrap itself in a similar thick blanket of clouds to survive, evolving into a hot, misty twin of its sister. Rather than a frightening thought, view this as the natural, graceful aging process of a planet, a transition from a blue youth into a golden, quiet maturity. It connects our two worlds across the vast river of time, showing that we are walking the same path, just at different stages of the journey. It teaches us acceptance of the long, slow cycles of the universe, where everything eventually transforms into something new. Rest in the knowledge that this is a story playing out over eons, far beyond the worries of tonight. A slow and majestic evolution of the stars. Ironically, on the planet closest to Earth and the Sun, solar panels would be of little use on the surface because the clouds reflect away so much light. Living there would mean relying not on the direct glare of the sun, but on the ambient, diffuse glow that filters through the mist, or perhaps tapping into the heat of the ground itself. Imagine a world where power does not come from a harsh, blinding source above, but is gathered from the gentle warmth of the environment and the winds that encircle the globe. It is a lesson in finding energy in softness, of utilizing the subtle forces around you rather than needing a direct spotlight. It creates an atmosphere of dim, cozy efficiency, where life is powered by the steady, quiet hum of the planet rather than the burning rays of a star. Turn down the brightness of your own energy now, switching to a low-power mode that relies on the gentle, ambient rhythms of sleep. To explore the depths of Venus, engineers are designing craft that are neither simple planes nor standard rovers, but hybrids that resemble flying submarines. Because the air is more like a fluid, these vehicles would use small wings to swim through the atmosphere, gliding with the slow grace of a manta ray in the deep ocean. Imagine a sleek, metallic vessel banking silently through the thick amber fog, its movements fluid and unhurried, navigating the currents of air as if they were water. It blurs the line between sky and sea, creating a mode of travel that is smooth, silent, and dreamlike. It invites you to let go of the rigid distinction between flying and floating, merging them into one seamless experience of drifting. Visualize yourself in this vessel, swimming through the warm air, supported on all sides, gliding deeper and deeper into the comfort of the night. We end our journey with the greatest riddle of all. Why did two planets, born of the same dust in the same neighborhood, grow up to be so beautifully different? One became a blue oasis of water and life, while the other became a golden sanctuary of heat and stone. This mystery is not a problem to be solved tonight, but a testament to the unique destiny of every soul in the universe. It reminds us that even with the same beginnings, we all travel our own distinct paths, evolving into unique worlds with our own atmospheres and stories. Venus stands as a beautiful, mysterious individual, refusing to be just a copy of Earth, proud of her amber skies and silent, hot plains. Embrace your own unique path as you drift off, knowing that, like the planets, you are a distinct, beautiful world, spinning in your own perfect rhythm in the vast, quiet, dark. And so, our slow drift through the amber skies of the morning star has finally reached its quiet conclusion. We have floated past the golden veil of the clouds, touched the silent, silver peaks of Maxwell Montes, and rested in the eternal twilight of a day that stretches on forever. You have traveled millions of miles without ever leaving your sanctuary. Remember, the vast stillness you witnessed out there is simply a reflection of the deep peace waiting inside you. You are not separate from this cosmos. You're a breathing part of its rhythm, as steady and enduring as the planets themselves. If your eyelids feel heavy now, surrender to that weight. There is nothing left to learn tonight, only to dream. Let your breath carry you into the velvet dark. Good night.